So this is March 26, 2010, and we're here with Celia Duquette by the shores of Lake Superior here in Bayfield, Wisconsin, for a little history lesson. So thank you for talking with us, Celia. Bobby?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it's just a great pleasure and a great honor to be able to sit here and discuss the little old Bayfield and family and things like that. So we're really honored to be here today, and it'll be one of a collection of hopefully 40 people that we capture in this round. So anyway, I want to start out with talking a little bit about you, Seal, and tell us.
By the way, my name is Celia.
Celia. It's always been Celia. Anyway, let's take us back to your earliest days and where you're from, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your family before we move into the old Bayfield Duquette family type of thing.
Well, I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan, and my father worked at the Buick Motors, and of course my mother was housekeeper, and we just had a nice family life there in Flint. Went to school at Civic Park, and Northern, which doesn't exist anymore. But so it was a nice neighborhood and a good place to grow up and have know all the neighbors and the families nearby.
So you're a young lady growing up in Flint,
And then I worked as a florist after I graduated from high school.
okay, in the Flint area.
Yes.
Okay, so your whole family basically are Michiganders.
Yes.
From way back
Way back.
and all of a sudden you wind up in Bayfield, Wisconsin. What year did you come to Bayfield, and what inspired you to come here? And tell us.
Well,
a
I
little bit
came
about...
in 1955 as a bride.
Okay.
So inspiration, I suppose, was love, huh?
It's part of it, yeah. So you met Don Duquette,
Yeah.
your husband. Tell us a little bit about those early days. You know, when you met him and stuff. Where'd you meet him anyway?
Well, the Duquette,
Yeah, Don.
his father and my father were good friends at the Buick, and Don's uncle, Jess Powell. They were all close friends, and the Camp families all kept close ties. So I sort of knew him, who he was, and about him all my life. But beyond that, just little kids playing once in a while. And his family was up here part of the time and back and forth. So just in general, family connections.
What year were you born, Celia?
29.
1929. So, 1955, you're about 25, 26 years old.
25.
25 years old when you get to Bayfield. And you had met Don in Flint?
Yes.
Okay, so Don basically grew up in the Flint area then too?
Yes, they spent their summers here.
Okay, so Don, the Duquette family, what was Don's father's name?
His name was Alfred Duquette.
Alfred Duquette. And he was one of 5 children or 4 boys or something like that?
Well, I'd have to figure it out, but there was several children
Okay.
of in the family. 5 or 6, I don't. As I said, I'd have to write down their names.
Yeah. Well,
That's a French name now, so
Yes,
Duquette. So were they French Canadian?
yes.
Came down from Canada at some point?
They lived sort of just across from maybe Windsor or somewhere. They lived around Windsor or Port Huron.
okay.
I don't know just what little town they came from, but so that was where they came from before.
So imagine Don was born right around your period in time. What,
Yes.
a year or two earlier, or when was Don born?
Well, actually, just about the same time.
Okay, so what had been going on, because the Duquette name goes back to Bayfield, I know it to the minimal of 1915 or 16, somewheres in there. So the Duquette family had been, and straighten me out now, had been living in Flint, but they come up here in the summertime from like 1917 to 19.
Well, now, first, Don's grandfather,
Okay,
William Duquette,
okay,
he was the one that had the tugboats and everything. And he had a boat down there, and I don't know just where.
in Michigan or
in
okay,
Michigan.
Okay, gotcha.
And he knew about Bayfield, and I think he was a friend of Shine Miller's.
Okay,
And there was work up here for tugboats, and with the logging and everything. And so he was on tug with Locksmith.
okay.
And
Oh, he tugged with Locksmith in them days too.
yeah,
William Duquette.
yes.
Got it. Now I'm getting it.
And so he was up here for several years, and when the family lived up here on 7th Street, and quite a few children there, and Alfred, my husband's father, was the oldest.
Okay,
So I think he had to take care of the little kids.
okay.
So was he born here then, Alfred?
No,
No.
he was born,
What's interesting,
I
did
think,
you ever
Bay City, Michigan.
you ever recall any of those old timers talking about the tug, the Henry W. and the Scow, the Badger?
No,
Because I'm thinking that's probably he was either on the Bayfield, which was one of Locksmith's boats. They had the Henry W., which he named after himself, and they had a big scow similar to the Finn McCool that's laying on the bottom out here in those days. And I would almost guess that William Duquette probably was skipper on one of those boats, because I know Shine Miller was also a captain on Henry Locksmith's boats too. Okay, so they're living here early in time up on 7th Street. Do you know what house would that be at this period in time?
well, it was on the corner, Penny and 7th, like across from what's Gray Oaks now,
Okay.
and the playground, and
Okay.
it's the Hendrickson house
Okay,
now.
where Dee Hendrickson is living now. Okay,
Yeah, that
about
was
a
their house.
about a block west of the Bethesda Lutheran
Yeah.
Church. Kitty corner. Okay, and they lived there.
Well, for several years, I don't know just how long.
So William Duquette, and what was his wife's name?
Louise, Mary Louise.
Mary Louise, and she was a Michigan girl, I would guess too.
Canadian, I guess,
Canadian. Okay,
as far as I know.
so they.
I've heard what her maiden name was, but I don't recall. It was kind of an odd name.
Well, probably
French
one of the-
name.
Yeah. So what happened there?
Couture or something like
Couture?
that. Something like that.
Couture. That's a pretty French name.
Something like that. I'm not pronouncing it properly.
Okay. So they meet, and they meet Shine Miller, and Shine Miller, I guess, there's some good work up there. You might want to consider it. And so they come up here possibly by train, by automobile or something,
I think they came on the boat.
probably on the boat. I wonder if he brought his own boat up here or not. Maybe he brought his own tug.
He did.
Okay. So now he's not he's an independent tugboat operator up here. Okay. I'm getting it now.
And about when would this be? When he came up here?
Gosh, I don't know. It would be early 1900s or when the lumber companies were big.
Yeah.
Before that, as it declined, then.
If I recall right, Jim Miller was the son of Shine Miller.
Yeah.
Got her, John? So, and we learned that valuable lesson from Marge Miller, who we interviewed a little bit earlier too. Okay, Shine Miller, I recognize his picture and everything. Okay, so they were in the tugboat business together, and they stayed here for quite a few years. And you say they came up in the summertime, and then they went back to Michigan in the winter.
Well, that was just when Don was young.
Okay,
But when they first came up here, they stayed the whole time, of course.
okay, year round. Then there's a migration of one of the sons. Now, Don's father is Alfred. So Alfred was born in Bayfield.
Yeah.
Probably attended
As far
school.
as I know, maybe not, but he may have been born in Bay City or someplace else. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that Alfred attended schools in Bayfield.
Yes, he did. He went to the Catholic school.
Yeah, I see their names over there in that period in time. A couple of the Duquette kids.
Yeah.
Albert and Alfred and maybe one more there, I just can't recall.
Well, there's Robert and Eva and Olive and Grace.
That's the family. Those are the 7 children of William. Interesting, okay. So now we've got Alfred, I'm going to get these names all cooped up now. You got
Well,
me
whether
going.
Albert, Alfred.
Yeah, why don't they all have different starting names or something with A, B, C, D or something?
Of course, they called him Fred. They didn't call him Alfred.
Okay, so Fred, maybe that's the way to go. Fred Duquette went to Catholic school here,
Yeah.
and then did he stick in the area, or do you recall what happened to Fred Duquette after that period in time?
Well, they young people, got together and met Don's mother and consequently Cupid and all of that, and married. So, but they were actually married in. I think they were married in Flint.
Okay,
I don't think they were
what
married.
year were they married? Do you know?
No, not for sure.
Don was born in 29.
Well,
Yeah.
see, he had an older sister, so.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm thinking they probably got married somewhere before 1929.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm figuring they probably got married in their mid-20s or somewhere in there.
Or maybe later, maybe 1900s. He was in the World War One.
Oh, he was.
He was.
He's
He never went overseas, but he was drafted. He was in the army.
19,
They were married while he was in the army.
He was with Company B out of Bayfield County here, I'll bet. There's a...
I don't know whether he was here. I don't know where he left from.
Yeah, all that gang went to Texas to train.
I think he was in Texas.
That's where the B company went out of Bayfield County. I don't know if they counted B because it was Bayfield County, but they were part of Company B, and there's a Company A here too. And some of the real, I've got the list of everybody that was in that first round of people that signed up to go to war.
He never went overseas.
Yeah. I think it was pretty much over by the time. See, the United States didn't get in the war until 1917. I think April 6, 1917, we entered in the war. It had raged over there for 5 years earlier, somewhere from 1912. And all of a sudden, we just became involved in it. And that group signed up. They had a big Red Cross mission in Bayfield, and the whole community was very alive. And they had a big Red Cross that they made the bandages and gauze for all the boys in the war and stuff like that. It was really active here in town. But I do remember his name being in that first battery of lists that I see now.
It was either that or Georgia. I don't know. Maybe both. I don't know.
All the letters.
My father, Leon Houston, he was in the Navy in World War One.
Okay.
But he was overseas.
So your father was Leon.
Yeah, but he never lived here.
Yeah, go into your own family history.
My
a
own
little bit.
family?
What's your
Yeah.
maiden name?
Houston.
Houston. I
And,
never
you
knew
know,
that.
when did your grandparents or great grandparents come here? Did they go back quite a ways, or
Well,
they
on
immigrants?
my father's side of the family, they came to America in 1725.
Jeez.
So I think they settled in Vermont or someplace like that.
Okay.
So they were here for a while.
They were English,
Scots Irish.
Scots Irish. Okay.
Huston?
Uh huh.
Okay, not Hous.
No, unless they changed it, but And then Don's family on the Shattuck side, they came even earlier. I think they may have been Mayflower. I'm not sure about that.
The Shattuck family.
Shattuck. There's many Shattocks in Boston and around that area.
Oh, there is.
So, you know, they were really here at the beginnings, both. And as far as the Duquettes, I'm not sure, but of course they came to Canada first. Now, Claire could give you some information on that because someone was doing some genealogy and they said it was way back and that the name was actually Belgium when it started out
Really?
because the Belgians speak French.
Oh, okay. So
So,
Fred Duquette married Clarice
Clarice,
Shattuck.
right.
All right, you're getting it into this head right now. Okay, and that's who your daughter Claire is named after. So you and your lineage goes back almost to 1700s.
Yeah,
and
the
family.
Houston family. No.
Okay.
But they live mostly in New York State. My father was born and raised in New York State, near Rochester.
Do you still have family out that way that you know?
No, not anymore. But you used to visit relatives.
You don't need any Shaddocks at all anymore, or
No,
so that name is an old. Was there a Shattuck family in Bayfield? I want to say there was.
before,
Before Clarice Shattuck.
no.
So they brought that Shattuck name here, but I want to say I see that other places in Bayfield's history too. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
And what about your mother?
Well,
What was
my
her
mother
name?
was Eleanor Nicholas, and she lived in the little town of Bertrand, Michigan, near Saginaw.
Okay.
Raised on a farm, oldest of about 5 children. And there's her picture.
Okay, we'll get that
Oh.
later.
Yeah. Well, that's your mom.
And
there.
so she, just grew up there with her family and went to Flint to work and met my father. Everybody was working for GM then, somewhere.
Sure, it was a big plant.
Back
Yeah.
when Flint was booming, not like it is now.
Well, it's sad.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
practically cry when I. But
Yeah.
she worked for AC Sparkplug,
Okay.
and my father worked at the Buick.
At the Buick plant there. That's what my Uncle Fred used to do, is drive chassis for Fisher Body, from Fisher Body to the Buick plant.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, that's what he did for a living. Yeah.
On one of those big carrier trucks?
Yep, that's what he did. He was a strong union man for many years there. Belonged to the Teamsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, Don's grandfather, William, he was self-taught engineer. Couldn't read or write. Signed his name with an X, but a brilliant man, brilliant engineering, and he did a lot of the original heating systems and electrical stuff in the GM plants.
really.
But, of course, she said he was couldn't read or write. He just had to always sign an X, and his son would sign his name.
Maybe he understood a schematic, those type of things. So
Or
he
he
was
could
pretty
do
sharp.
anything else, but not
Yeah,
that.
it came to that. It was no. Okay, so well, that's really interesting. And you came to Bayfield in '55. Young couple, just married. Where'd you live when you got here? And tell us a little bit about your first thoughts as you entered Bayfield, other than what the heck am I doing here type of thing.
Well, we lived in a little cottage over at the motel,
Okay.
and that's still there.
Right, you mean at the Seagull Bay here?
Yeah, because his folks owned it, owned
Oh,
the
they did?
Seagull Bay Motel, and then So we lived there for 2 or 3 years in that little cottage, and then Claire was on the way, so we moved over here.
So
We lived here, I think, moved here in 57.
then this building that we're in right now formerly belonged to Don's father.
No, never belonged to the Carvers.
So you guys purchased it from Ed Carver?
Yeah,
Okay. And they're part of that Carver family, for the record. They were here for quite a few years before that. You see their name a lot in business transactions, land transactions, when the Carver family, Ed Sr., was part of Carver, Quayle, and Nurse. And they were part of the, after they got done logging the hills off, they were shifting, probably selling land to even Powell, your Jesse Powell and William Powell and the people up on the hill up there. So I imagine they all knew each other very, very well in those days.
probably.
Yeah. So you bought this place in 57 and now it's 2010, so you got quite a few years in this building.
Yeah,
A lot
had
of
to do a lot of work on it, but
Yeah, it's a very, very nice home. So it's beautiful, nice little overlook of the lake. So you have Claire in 57. She's born in 57, and you also have a son, Leon.
Leon,
Yeah, named after your father, I take it.
yes,
And Claire is named after
Don's mother.
Don's mother. So you kind of traded off there a little, I see.
Well, worked out.
Yeah.
And where is he now?
He lives in Madison.
What does he do?
He works for the Veterans Administration, doing with the hospital down there with their insurance work. He doesn't have anything to do with patients, but
Okay.
that's where he works.
Okay, for the veterans. Tell us a little bit about Claire. What's she up to these days? Your daughter.
Well, she's editor of the Ashland Daily Press, of course, and lives near Washburn. Has a nice home and family. My granddaughter Amy lives in Chicago.
She's that old already.
Yes.
I can remember when Claire was just in high school, little grade school kid there. She's 7 years younger than me.
Oh.
So that means she's got to be 53 now. So when I see her, I've got one up on her.
Yeah. So she's, and as I said, Leon was married to last spring to a gal he met at work,
Okay.
and he has a stepdaughter, and likes it real well down there.
Oh, the Madison area is really nice. Tell us a little bit about Claire's family. Who is she married to now? And tell us a little
Well,
bit
she's married to Terry Burns,
more. Okay.
who is in the insurance business.
Okay. So they're married and they have,
Well, he had 3 children,
okay.
but they're all grown up.
Okay. Sounds good. And Claire had a daughter by the name of Amy. Tell us a little bit about Amy.
Well, she's my one and only grandchild. So, of
Probably-
course, that makes her special.
She's at the top of the list now.
Yeah. But, as I said, she lives in Chicago. She moved there about a year ago. She went to school in Minneapolis for a beautician, And so after that, and having a boyfriend that lives in Chicago,
Oh, okay.
influence there.
Sounds like something you went through there.
Anyway, so right now I don't. Oh dear, there goes the phone. Can you turn it off or what?
We're doing the hard history now. We're going to do some soft history in a little bit, but I know at that period of time you guys became vested in the Bayfield community, and you owned the Seagull Bay Hotel motel for many years. And what was life like in Bayfield in 1957? I can't hardly remember it anymore.
Well, as I say, we were pretty well occupied with the motel and raising the family and everything. So it was all summer washing, ironing, waiting on customers, which I liked. Of course, I got kind of tired of the washing and ironing because there wasn't any laundries or laundromats or anything at that time. So.
Yeah.
You did it all yourself. And we had very good employees. Florence Harrith.
Oh, I remember Mrs. Harris.
Yeah, and Lila Van Duzer.
Lila, I remember very
and
well.
Jenny Goslin,
Jenny, Grandma
and,
Jenny.
yeah, and some others too, and some of the younger girls too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a very busy life from early spring till late fall.
When you got here, how many apartments did you have there?
At that time, they had, let's see, five, about 7.
7.
And then the call came from people they wanted a motel. And they'd say, "Is there a motel in Bayfield?" "Well, no." And so we said, better get busy and build one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was about 56 that they added 3 units onto an existing cottage.
Okay.
Because first it was just one cottage when they came up here.
Okay.
And then, that was filled and just gradually got more. And
When you got out of the business, how many units did you have?
let's see, probably about 11 or 12.
Okay, so you expanded somewhere too then.
But,
You guys expanded.
oh yeah, because they started with just one.
Yeah. Okay. And the cottage was the old little greenhouse that was up on the. It's still there now. So.
That wasn't the original cottage, no.
Okay, where was it?
The original one is long gone.
Lost the fire, or did you tear
Just
it down?
after we sold it to Hanson's,
Okay.
they tore out the old things and built a more modern. But after things became, wanted more motels and more modern, we tore down about 3 little cottages and built 6 units.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And, that was pretty great because but it was strange. Theirs was the first ones that had indoor plumbing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The other ones in town had, I guess they just went outdoors.
I don't know what they did either.
Yeah.
We won't get into that.
But there weren't too many places. There was what they called Topowist Terrace
Okay.
and Skyline
And where are
and the
those?
hotel. And that was
The Bayfield Inn Hotel. Where was the top of Wist? That would be up on North Limits Road?
Yeah, where Fishers lived.
Yeah, okay, up on.
That, and now it's, I don't know who lives in
Yeah,
that big
I
house
don't know
now.
Yeah, I don't know either, but that was top of Wist was up on North Limits
Yeah,
Road there.
and,
next to Lee Murado.
Stuart and Aiken,
Yeah.
they ran it too. But they didn't begin it. It was begun by the Fisher family.
Okay.
You know.
And the Fisher family would be Utoka,
Eliza and Utoka and
Marjorie.
Marjorie.
their parents. And their father was a
The
lawyer.
lawyer, and to begin with, Don's aunt Janet worked for Mr. Fisher
Well, for John Fisher.
when they first came.
His aunt Janet worked for John Fisher as a legal secretary type of.
Right out of high school and got a job as the secretary.
Isn't that something?
Said he was very frugal.
Well, I'll bet. No, you got to be kidding me. I could see. I had Marjorie Benton as a librarian in high school, so I do, and I remember Utoka, and the other sister Elizabeth too.
Yeah.
And I can just imagine there was every penny was counted for every
Yeah.
day.
They told a little story about Utoka that Don's aunt Janet gave her a piece of gum and she only tore it in half and only chewed half because she said she was saving for college.
Oh, oh God, I bet you there's a lot of those stories. Was that when, would that be the period in time when John Fisher was located downtown? Or was that
Yeah,
his
he was downtown.
His law office was down, I think, on the Van Sant property now, or where Bob Boxsmith had his former house.
I don't know. I think somewhere near the old bank
Yeah, okay,
in that area.
okay. The kids went to Bayfield schools, in that period of time. I wish Claire was here because I really wanted to pick her mind to see what it was like when she was a kid, because I can remember my times there. But how, as a parent, were you involved like in PTA and things like that in those days? And tell us a little bit about your kids growing up in Bayfield.
Well, Claire was very active in lot of things in high school.
I remember band and choir.
The band and choir and the swing choir and all of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Leon wasn't so much into the music and everything. He wasn't as active in things like she was. But they'd go on these speeches, and they'd contests.
Yeah.
Did quite well, both of them.
Forensics, that type of thing.
Forensics, yes. And I don't recall doing anything particular with PTA, or, they were just took part with whatever they were doing.
Yeah. Go to the basketball games, go to the, whatever she participated in, I suppose.
Yeah, she didn't do much for sports,
Yeah.
so we were mostly to the concerts.
Who were her music teachers then? Do you remember?
Let's see, Brevac, I think her name was.
Shelley Brevac?
Yeah,
That was swing choir. That was a
Yeah.
really popular thing in Bayfield.
yeah, she was there.
They were really good too.
Oh, they got awards on
Didn't they go to Florida and stuff too?
They did, and I can't remember if Claire did, but yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure she did, because I remember making little outfits and buying the certain kind of a shoes and all
Oh
that
gosh.
stuff.
Yeah. All part of the pomp and glamour of it all.
Yeah.
The fun of it all. I would hope Claire would. That would be she would recognize that as a nice part of her life.
Yeah, she liked that.
How did Claire ever get interested in the print business? And tell us a little bit about after Claire left high school. What did she do?
Well, she went out to school in Boston,
Okay.
and she went. It wasn't any big university or anything. It was a small school. I can't think of the name now. That's terrible. Anyway, and she had
Journalism school.
some journalism and public speaking, and it's a school that a lot of people that are connected with the theater attended
Okay.
and were active in. It didn't have a campus or anything like that. It was just buildings along the street.
Okay.
And so she had an apartment out there and worked her way through the whole thing.
Oh.
She'd go to school and got all good marks, and she worked as a waitress in the kitchen at a restaurant. And so it was a very busy life for her.
So that was.
She didn't come home very often.
No. Yeah. So what year did she get back to the Bayfield area? Then was that in the 80s? Maybe even later.
Yeah, probably in the. She graduated in 76, I think.
Okay.
So it would have been early 80s.
Yeah. Came back and then what did Claire do when she got here?
Well, she was looking for work, and she did odd things. I think she even taught at the Catholic school for 1 year.
Really?
Yeah, she wasn't really a qualified teacher, but it was okay for them, I guess.
Yeah.
And she just worked around at different jobs, and finally there was an opening at the Ashland Daily Press because Virginia Burtness was retiring.
Okay.
And she was good in journalism, because that was part of her schooling.
Sure.
And she took over after Virginia, and she's been here ever since.
Yeah, and that's been quite a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the editor.
She didn't start out as editor, but she started working there.
Started writing probably right off the
Yeah,
bat
and
and covering events and
taking pictures. And
yeah. I often wonder. I was kind of hoping she'd be here today. I'd pick her mind on that a little bit, but so she's over at the Daily Press, and the print media is changing rapidly. Has she ever confided in you what she thinks the world of print media is going to look like in 10 years?
Going downhill. We don't know what's going to happen, because we can all know what's happening to newspapers all over.
Yeah, because
Although sometimes the small dailies do better maybe than the big ones, because the small communities depend on them
they still like to read them.
for for their local event, you know.
Sure.
Did you ever work for the County Journal?
No,
No.
but they work together
Now
now.
I know they're owned by the same people, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
They're owned, I think the owners live off someplace, Texas or something.
Yeah, it's like a
They're big,
syndicate almost.
Yeah.
they own a lot of small papers.
Yeah. Okay. So Claire's up and running. John,
Do you remember some of Claire's teachers at the school? Aside from the music? Who was teaching up? Who was the superintendent then?
Don Johnson, I
Don
guess.
Anderson?
Anderson, yeah.
Yeah.
Don Anderson was, okay.
And, you know, and then the teachers, there was Verdane, Hanson, and Pavila, and Val Wrighton, and I think, and there was Gladys.
Larson.
Yeah, and then there was another woman there. I can't think of what her name was now, in the elementary school.
In her time. Cora Bellinger.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. She probably had Adelia Hanson.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and then did she have Mrs. Hoffheinz?
I think so.
Yeah. And then Marvelous Marv Pavila.
Yeah.
What the name Duquette would indicate probably that you're Catholic by nature. Are you guys Catholics?
No.
Okay.
Don's father and his family, the Duquettes, were.
Mm-hmm.
But none of them continued on with that religion. They all went on to different churches.
Okay.
What church did you guys belong to?
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian, okay.
So
were you active in the church?
Yeah, still am. Mm-hmm.
No. What did you do? What was your...
Or I was active in the Women's Association, and then I was on the deacon. Well, I'm on the deacon board now, and then of course I was an elder at one time and taught Sunday school and just about everything that you active in the Women's Association.
who are some of the people you remember in the church there as being pretty active with you, and who would be your friends within the church over there?
Well, let's see. Of course, Val Wrighton was very active, and then Baker's, Elva Baker,
Okay.
and her daughter Ann. Of course, they still are.
Ann still is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
more or less. And trying to think of some of the names that
As you bring them forward,
Brune, the old.
Marcus Brune,
Yeah, well, of course, his parents.
and do you remember old Otto Brune,
No, I didn't know.
Reverend Brune?
No, his what was his name? There was a Brune, but his name wasn't Otto.
Marcus.
Marcus was his son.
Yeah, and they had a daughter named Dorothy. Mm-hmm. And I think there's another Brune girl too.
Yeah, yes, there was, but I didn't know her.
I kind of remember him a little bit. I was a little kid growing up in town when
The other,
Reverend Brune, I just called him that.
the other daughter there never lived around Bayfield, but
Okay.
of course, Marcus' wife lived here at one time.
Oh, Marcus's wife.
Yeah,
Was he married?
Barbro, her name was. She was from Sweden, I think.
I have, where I live out there, out by the fish hatchery, I spent, when Marcus was still alive and I had some very nice conversations with
Oh,
them.
they had a cabin way off. I don't know where it is, but
In
it's
back
still
of
there.
our place down there, yeah.
Is it still there?
Yeah. And Marcus's daughter,
Diane.
comes up from Indianapolis with her husband, and they've got that thing technology wired now, but it's their kind of their retreat.
I'd sure like to meet her again, Diane.
Yeah, nice lady. So
Yeah,
and Clyde.
I didn't know her husband.
Yeah, so they're broadcasters
Yes.
by trade in that field anyway. I know she was for sure. So there's the Brune family there.
Yeah, see, when Marcus was in the service, the army, she lived here with.
Was that how it went? Mm-hmm. Where'd she live with her in-laws?
No, she lived here with Carvers.
Oh, she lived here. Interesting. I remember I always thought she was German or something. Did you
No,
say
she's Swedish.
Swedish? Okay. Yeah, she still hung on to that brogue right to the end too.
Yeah.
It never left her. It was like kind of hard to listen to her. Yeah. And they had another daughter too.
Yes. I can't think of what her name was, but
They used to call her Bootsy.
Oh.
But there's Diane and oh boy,
Karen.
Karen. Yeah. And well,
Because you must never call her Karen. It had to be Karen.
she's pretty pretty particular. So anyway, yeah, that's the Bruin family. Who are some of the other ministers that were at the church in your period of time?
Well, Reverend G,
Yeah, okay.
Preston's father.
Yeah.
Then there was a Miller. And of course, John Green, that was here for a long time.
John was here for 20 years, wasn't he? They were good people.
Yeah.
And who is the name of the minister here in Bayfield now at the Presbyterian Church?
They call him Oliver Holder or something. He's a real nice guy. I
Yeah.
really like him. Came from Milwaukee. I don't know why he wanted to come way off here. A little bitty church. He probably could make more money down there.
Well, he's got his PhD in history or in
Oh yeah,
religion
he's
or
very
something.
lots of stuff.
Yeah. And his wife also Jean is also a minister, isn't she?
But she doesn't preach, I don't think.
She doesn't slip in there once in a while when he's gone for the week or something.
Not that I know of.
They have some
she
children.
has a job in Ashland.
Oh, I see. Good people. Is the church in pretty good shape these days, financially and?
Well, as good as most churches are.
Yeah, from hand to mouth too, aren't they? At times. How many people are in the Bayfield Presbyterian Church at this point in time?
I don't know what the membership is.
It's still about the biggest church in town, isn't it, though?
Yeah, it's the biggest Protestant church.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's been that way for quite a while.
How about some of your other friends outside of the church? Who did you hang around with? You and your husband. Who were?
Well, as far as other couples around, there were some of the teachers at Hanson's and Pavla's and some of those people. But we were pretty well occupied when they were busy teaching school. That was our free time, and then
Yeah.
we were too busy in summer to do a lot of.
Yeah, you didn't get a lot.
What did you do in the off season?
Well, my husband, of course, worked as the TV and repair
Yeah, he had his own
technician, had his own business,
Oh, he did.
radio, and
Did he have a shop here in town?
yeah, right in our house.
No. Sir.
He had one in Washburn for a while too.
Oh, okay.
What was his business called? Did he have a name?
Well, at that time, I guess it was just Don's
Don's TV repair.
repair, yeah, when he was here. Then it was Washburn when he lived there, or when he worked there, had his shop there.
Did
And he worked at one time for people in Ashland.
Oh, okay.
Home Electric, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And what about you? Did you have some other jobs in the wintertime?
No,
No. You were
Just-
taking care of the kids and running the
And
household. Did you completely close down the motel in the off season?
at first we did, and then when we rebuilt the more modern, up to date, then we were open year round.
Okay.
But
6
when
units.
was that? But when did you start operating year round?
Well, let's see, in '66 or somewhere along in there. I can't remember just the year.
So there were enough people coming in the off season to
Well,
warrant that, or?
there wasn't too many, but we rented a couple of units that were housekeeping as a residence to you.
And what did you, even in the very early days, what did you charge for each room? What did it cost?
I think about $6.
Yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you really made a killing there.
And then when you renovated, and expanded, you went up in price probably.
Yes, yeah.
And so what'd you go up to? What is some?
Well, in the 60s, even then, it seemed kind of ridiculous. It was around between 10 and 15.
A night?
Yeah.
How long were you in the business?
Until my husband's health gave way
Okay,
and we sold to Hanson's in Brighton.
okay.
When was that?
Oh, that was, he's 20 years or more ago.
That long ago?
1990?
Yeah, about then, or
Wow, boy, how time flies. It seems
maybe it was even longer than that. His
Yeah.
health got leukemia and we sold.
like, yeah.
Then they had it for about 10 years.
And who
so-
was this? Who had it?
Verdane Hanson and Larry Wrighton.
So you sold it to them, and then they in turn resold it, and it's under different ownership now.
Yeah, Goodyear.
Goodyear.
What's it cost now a night there? I wonder.
I don't know.
Do you know what?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to find a place anywhere for under 80 a night, I would imagine,
I would guess.
I
or
don't,
100.
don't think they charge that much. I don't know, but we always kept the price reasonable. We said if it was clean and neat and reasonable price, we were full all the time.
Yeah.
Who named that motel?
My mother-in-law.
She did. Mm-hmm. I wondered about that, how it got it. It's a perfect name.
Why did she call it Seagull Bay? Just because you could see all the seagulls or something?
Well, she liked the birds and and the seagulls, and it was kind of on a little in the bay and around here, and they just thought that was a good name.
That's a cute. That's a good question there, John. We're just take two.
You can take a break.
Tell us a little bit about what you think the importance of the tourism trade to the Bayfield area is, has been, and will continue to be.
Well, right now I think it's about the only thing in Bayfield and I think it might continue to grow. One big thing was the National Lakeshore helped some of it along, and of course the marinas made a big change too when Port Superior and some of those places opened up, and so of course there's Apple Fest, but that's just one time of the year.
Yeah, it's a nice little
Of course,
shot.
people come for before and after.
Most of the people that stayed in your hotel, why did they come? Were they just to see Bayfield, or
Yeah.
come up for dinner, or
Well, they just come, for Bayfield because they come from the cities and around, and from different parts of the state. We don't have, I don't know about now, but there didn't used to be too many from outside Minnesota and Wisconsin, and people come up from Chicago,
yeah?
Milwaukee.
You have a lot of return people back in
Yes.
the old days, come back and back. And
Yeah. So.
were you guys involved in the chamber at all, and Chamber of Commerce?
Not too much. Well, Don went to some meetings, but they belong. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then there used to be Mrs. Grunke would make sure people stayed in Bayfield. They'd come and ask where rooms are,
Mm-hmm.
and she'd direct them. And then I think at the pier did that too. Of course, the fishermen would come and they'd book through those places, and then they'd send them.
And you get the fall, some of
Yeah,
that
they'd
business
come
too.
and stay overnight and leave in the morning.
Well, I see when I drive by here in the morning this time of the year now, you'll see quite a few boats and stuff pulled up out there, and a lot of people seem to be staying, to go fishing nowadays too. That's somewhat of a tourism trade too, is that, sport fishing here.
And they come early and late in the season because they want to get their sailboats ready and wake them up and put them to bed. And
So you harbor some of those people that are working on their boats
boats,
too.
yeah.
So it sounds to me like you're pretty much filled much of the year then, for the most part.
I think they are, or there's sometimes.
What's the slowest time of the year around here?
Well, after the winter stuff is done, the skiing and snowmobiling, and the spring events, getting ready for summer.
Right
There's
about
a
now.
little lull. That's about the
From mid-March till the middle of May,
yeah.
couple months.
They want to by Memorial Day things kind of, and of course it always increases when schools are out.
Has that pattern held pretty much for all the years that you
Pretty
were in
much.
business? You could bank on it, in other words,
Yeah.
or not bank on
They
it.
have more winters now than we did.
What do they do in the wintertime around here for recreation? And when you were first going, was it just sliding around town? I don't think the snowmobiles came to Bayfield until about 1962 or 63.
There wasn't much because snowmobiling hadn't started. They didn't have trails and all of that. Like in Ashwa Bay wasn't developed too much. So
So when did you close down in the fall, then, generally?
usually right after 1st of November.
After Apple Fest and October, fall colors. And then you'd open up when?
Oh, probably around 1st of May, middle of May, somewhere along in there.
So you had about almost 6 months off season then, practically.
Yeah.
5 months maybe.
Yeah, I remember Garner Hadlin being in the television business. So you guys, I know that you guys, or Don, serviced a lot of people in the community. Remember the old black and white TVs? I think maybe Dad bought the first one from him or something up on the hill there.
Reception was pretty poor.
Oh, it was horrible, wasn't it? There's nothing you could do to save it here either. You were lucky channel 3, 6, and 10, remember?
Yeah.
Oh, what's on? Nothing. You see a little person in the background there with all that snow in front of him, looked like a big blizzard.
What'd you have? Did you have a roof antenna?
Everybody had antennas.
Roof
there.
antennas, yeah. Right.
My husband climbed many roofs.
Yeah.
Because he did that in Flint too.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah. He
He's
worked
not-
for a company down there, and they had antennas.
Well, that's where you picked up the trade down there then.
He went to General Motors Institute.
Oh, he did.
And when did cable TV come in here? Do you remember?
Gee, no, I don't.
Garner Hadlin, or Bob Hadlin. I think didn't Bob bring cable in here probably in the 1990s?
I think Garner had something.
Yeah, Garner, yeah.
It was in here in the early 80s, I remember, because that's
Was
when
it?
I first came up here, and I remember they had that live feed down at the pier
Yeah, they did.
going all the time.
Uh-huh.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Garner had old photos
Old
of Bay.
pictures.
Old pictures, yeah, going. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's when
actually, the tourists would watch those things.
yeah,
He
and
says,
that-
"Oh, it's kind of fun to watch
and
those
that
old
was when
pictures."
the cable TV was owned by people right here in town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonder what it cost to get cable TV then.
I don't know.
We should have asked Bob Hadlin
Yeah,
that
we
when we
should.
had him.
Yeah,
It's
I
one
don't
of
know.
one of the things you always forget something in these conversations.
Yeah. See, Don and Garner Hadlin and Kermit Hanson were very good friends all through school.
Okay.
And
So
of course,
Kermit,
Kermit, was all into radio too.
ham radio.
Yeah.
I think didn't Leon and Don both, weren't they involved in ham radio out of Bayfield or something? If I remember,
Yeah.
if I recall.
But yeah, they did. But they had little radio programs, Don and Kermit.
They did.
Yeah, and they'd put and they'd give local news and recipes and all
You're
that kind
kidding.
of stuff. And they used the telephone wire, which was illegal.
Oh, not
And,
those guys.
And they'd string up something, and the company would come and cut them off, and then they'd just string them up again.
Oh,
So who could pick up these radio shows?
Just the local people in Bayfield.
oh.
Really?
Yeah. You couldn't do that today, but they did.
Yeah, you get 99 years in jail for that nowadays. Well, that's a fun little story. You got any fun stories about people you know in Bayfield that you remember Helen Matson and
Oh,
Mel?
definitely.
Tell us,
Very.
tell us a little bit about your neighbors here, what they were like, Helen and Mel.
Oh, they were wonderful neighbors and, generous and everything. And Helen had her beautiful flower garden and a wonderful cook and was just,
Where do they live?
they lived up on the corner.
Right up the street here.
Yeah,
Right at
they-
Highway 13 and,
13.
and 7th.
Helen was born in that house and lived all her life there.
John Hagberg, and her name was Helen Hagberg. Class of 1922. I think she graduated with my aunt Ranghild.
Oh, she did. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And Mel was in that age group there too.
Yeah,
so-
he was roomed and boarded there.
Oh, that's how they met.
Yeah, that's how they. But her father didn't want her to get married, so they had to wait till the guy died, I guess.
Is that right?
Yeah, they
He
never
was that
married.
much of an influence?
I guess so. That's what I heard. No, but
Sure.
that he
Well,
just.
Mel had a little wild streak in him in there for a few years.
Well, I've heard that.
His brother Roy was.
Maybe the father knew that. I don't know.
Well, I'm pretty sure that the Matson boys were well known, and the Matson boys' father was the barber in Bayfield, and he had kind of a reputation too. So
Oh,
Hagberg marrying a Norwegian Matson, that probably would have fit if he didn't come with all that baggage, maybe. But he was a wonderful, wonderful guy. He used to.
oh, definitely.
Mel used to pass the plate in a Norwegian Lutheran church up there.
Yeah, very active.
Yeah.
And she was organist for years.
Yeah.
In the Lutheran Church.
Yeah. Helen Cease and
Yeah.
Helen Hagberg. I don't know who's playing now, but
Or they have someone from Washburn, the music teacher,
oh, I see.
the one that has the choir.
Okay. High school?
No, they give the concerts in the spring and
Oh,
winter.
okay. Your daughter was in the concerts and stuff like that. Were you ever part of the choirs in the church at all, or?
No, no.
I think Larry Wrighton used to direct the choir up at
Yes,
the.
he did. Of course, that's when he taught music here.
Yeah, Larry's not even around anymore. You
Not
remember
much.
remember Carl Wrighton at all? And
I didn't know him very well, but I knew him. His health was pretty poor because he had emphysema for years.
Was that what he had? Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the cause of his death, I guess, eventually.
At the end. Tell us a little bit what you remember about Valerie Wrighton. Do you remember much about Valerie?
Well, she was, with a church friend, and kids had her, and she was just a sweetie pie.
Yeah.
Well, everybody liked Val.
Well, I loved her. She was my first grade teacher. And then Gladys Larson was my second grade, so she was just a sweetheart. I think it hit Larry pretty hard when she passed, didn't it?
Well, yeah, that was his mother and
Only child.
no marriage or anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
then they did a lot of things together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was a sweetheart.
So
Do you remember the Hadlin boys? Did you ever talk to the Hadlin boys?
well, not too much because they were kind of to themselves up there.
Yeah. They were either on Rocky Island or in the basement.
They were gone a lot of the time anyway.
How about the Kinneys? Did you get to meet?
Well, some of their kids worked for me.
Oh, okay.
Their daughter Mary and a couple other girls that
Kathy.
worked at the motel.
Yeah.
And
Probably ones around Claire's age too.
Yeah.
I would guess.
so I don't see her much anymore. I guess she's,
She's got some circulation problems.
something about her knees or hips or something.
Yeah.
Doesn't get up.
Do you remember when Martin and Tina Erickson lived on the corner there? In the Walksmith house?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever spend any time with old Martin and Christine?
No, I didn't.
They were pretty old by then.
But his sister lived in that little house, kind of across the street on
Yeah,
7th
okay.
Street. Helena.
Oh, Helena, yeah.
She lived up there in that little house. because Glenn used to mow her lawn.
Is that right? Remember when she was dating Lloyd Wickstein?
Well, I
Do
didn't
you
know
remember
anything.
Lloyd?
Yeah, but I didn't know there was any affair.
Well, I don't think it was I won't go so far as to call it an affair.
Well,
But
no, maybe that was a little strong.
yeah, they had a somewhat of a nice relationship. I think they're pretty good friends. I remember Lloyd Wickstein real well. He was on the bull gang at Booth Fisheries for many, many years. He was about 5'8", and across the shoulders 5'8", and he wasn't very fat either. He was a big, strong kid. And then Helena and him seemed to strike up somewhat of a relationship. Tell us a little bit about Kermit Hanson in that group. Did you know him at all? And
Oh, yeah.
that's Alphabet Hanson's son, right? HJS
Yeah.
Hanson. We used to call him Alphabet.
Alphabet Hanson, yeah. Well, they were friends, good friends from Leon, or Don and Kermit. And in school and everything. So, of course, Kermit went off to school and became a doctor. And they'd come up every summer, and he'd come up at Christmas time, and we'd always get together. And then Kermit, of course, married Grace. Was that her name? No. Anyway, she's from Corsica.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What year did your husband get out of school here? 40,
8, probably.
48?
Somewhere along there.
So that's when that group was there.
No. And
What kind of things would you guys do with couples get together, do for fun?
used to have dinners and, kind of play games and stuff like that.
Cards? Were you card players?
Some of them, I never was good at cards, but the
No.
rest of them did.
Did you go to movies downtown? Do you remember the old?
Yeah,
You ever go to movies?
sometime, yeah, when they were.
When you had a spare moment, I suppose. But the movies were only in the summer in those days too, so you were busy here. You couldn't exactly just pick up and go see a movie.
No, you couldn't.
Yeah, there's too much going on.
Yeah, with the motel, I suppose it was 7 days a week, huh?
7 days a week, yeah.
Yeah.
Early morning, late night.
Do you remember Henry Korsberg when he lived on the corner
Yeah.
over there? Can you tell me a little bit about Henry?
I think I knew Gudrun more than Henry.
Okay.
And, of course, she was related to Mickey Nurse, who lived next door there for a long time.
Okay.
And so, but, I knew them, and
I just knew him. I can't remember her at all, for whatever reason. There was a whole pile of Korsbergs in Bayfield at one time, though. They're all part of that Bayfield Transportation Company thing. And there was a kid named, it's the craziest name I ever heard, Ugar Korsberg. Yugar. And he
I never knew him.
Yeah, he graduated from Bayfield schools like in about 1917 or something like that.
Hugo.
No, Ugar.
Ugar.
Yugar Korsberg. I'm not. You're looking at me like I'm crazy. I can show
Must
it to
be some Scandinavian name of some sort.
I never, John. You're.
I don't know. I've never heard of it either.
Yeah, it's the craziest name, but
Maybe his mother read a story about somebody that.
Yeah, you never know how people get names
Yeah.
sometimes.
So that was right in the immediate area. Who lived-
Yeah, and then Barb Spencer. Spencer's kids
Yep.
were together. Barb
Yep.
and I are still good friends.
They
Traveled
what?
together.
Where did they live?
Spencer's?
Yeah.
Oh, they lived like the house on the corner there, and then there was Hanson's and Spencer's.
Yeah, right on Highway 13. Still Captain Moe place.
Yeah, Captain Moe.
Ed Moe's place years ago.
Up around the corner there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There used to be a big house and that vacant parking, that lot there is full of, that lot that's empty there, but they lived between that corner and Kermit Hanson's place there, or
Yeah.
Alphabet Hanson's place, I suppose it was. Kermit must have inherited the house from him.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't. And then, of course, Kermit died very suddenly.
Yeah.
So now it's been sold. I don't know who owns it now.
I don't know anymore either.
They just are here and up and down.
Yeah, in and out, in and out.
When did Mickey and Lyman move in next door here? I remember when they lived here.
Oh. Hey, they must have here probably in the 70s, early 80s.
He must have retired. Do you remember where Lyman worked prior to his retirement?
He worked up on the range for Minnesota Mining or somebody up there.
Okay. And Mickey's Mickey Nurse is formerly a Mickey Nordine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And her father was John Nordine, and she had some brothers named Ray and
Ray was a plumber and her father was a plumber.
yeah, Wally Nordine,
Wally.
yeah, and then there was Ray Nordine, Mickey, and I think that's it for that family.
As far as I know, yeah.
And their father was John Nordine, which owns he used to have a nice little farm there at the turn of the century, which he raised apples and berries too, and that's where the pie shop is now, in that area.
Oh.
That's
yeah.
the old Nordine homestead there.
Oh.
Her father.
So, but I knew Mickey's mother.
Did you really? Yeah. I didn't. I can't say as I do.
What was her name?
See, Ernie was her father, and can't say right off the bat what her mother's first name was. But
Okay.
Was Mickey her real name, or was that a nickname?
no, that was her nickname.
What was her real name?
Her real name is Muriel,
Muriel.
Yeah.
I always wondered about that.
but she's Mickey from infancy, I guess.
She went to school with my mother. I think she was in the same class as my mother. She's like 90 years old now, or 90.
Oh, she's more than 90. She must be about, because
Going on 93.
they had yeah, that's right, because, well, she's 10 years older than me, and I'm 80, so
So she's,
going on 91 or so.
yeah, I was thinking.
See, they were going to have a big birthday party for her at church.
Oh.
She didn't live here at the time. Well, she fell down and broke her neck.
Oh.
So she never did have the party. But she's doing very well.
Isn't she down in the Twin Cities with her
Yes.
daughter?
She moved down there.
Yeah, she's quite a nice lady.
Well, we used to see each other almost every day. After Lyman died, and she loved to bake.
Was she a good baker?
Oh, bread, cookies, cake.
Boy,
I'd get her mail, and then there'd be a little package of cookies for me. And
what I miss so much in this day and age is some of that fresh homemade rye bread.
well, she made it too.
You can't even begin to.
I guess Dee Hendrickson is the one that's good at rye bread.
Is she? I'm gonna have to give her a call. There's nothing better than fresh rye bread. And that's something that, for this camera, I think that's going to be a dying art in the long run. Everybody just goes down to the grocery store and picks up some old pumpernickel or something like that in rye bread, and it's nowhere even near what some of those old cooks could put out for bread. Yeah, unbelievable. How about to the west of here? Who have your neighbors been on this side of this little ravine that kind of separates your property from?
Yeah, well, I own some on the other side of it, of that little creek. And there's a house over there. I don't know who owns it. There's people around sometimes in the summer.
In and out.
Yeah, the people who own it, I think they live in Colorado or someplace.
Okay.
But, so there's not much connection with anybody over there.
So you don't have much discourse with them at all during the
No,
summertime?
no.
Well, you've seen a lot of change
Oh, tremendous.
since you've
Because
been
that
here.
used to be garden.
That
Did
used
it?
to be your garden?
Not ours, but Ed Carver's.
Oh, here.
Way over on the other side of the creek. They had a chicken coop and a garden. They raised pansies sold the seeds.
Oh,
They
really?
And if he catch fish, he'd keep them fresh in the creek.
Really? Is there that much flow in that creek?
Well, I think he kind of dammed it up or, had
Held
some
one.
little,
Created a pool of some sort.
some sort.
Yeah. Right. And Carver, what was his full name?
Ed is all I ever know.
Ed, that's what I mean, yeah, his first name is Ed
That was
Carver.
his first name.
Yeah.
Not a nickname first. That was his
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. They're part of the original Carvers that landed at Plymouth.
Yes, that's right.
And that's the connection here. Mm-hmm. And then they had children too.
Ed and his wife didn't have children.
So I'm thinking of the old Carver's Corner then. This Ed Carver I'm thinking of is the son of the original Ed Carver that lived out in the town of Russell in about 1910.
Probably, yeah.
And that's the Carver Quail and Nurse. So this is the son of them. What did that Ed Carver do? Do you remember?
Well, they had a farm
Okay.
and raised berries and apples and things. And he worked for the, what do they called it, the Fruit Exchange?
Bayfield Fruit Company? Or?
Company, yeah. He was involved with that.
All right.
And I guess picked up little this or that, as far as I know.
Bayfield Peninsula Fruit Company was the name of one of them too, so could have been that one where he was involved in it.
I
Interesting.
think he had something to do with Walksmouth too. At one time, I don't know whether that was
Maybe you
fruit.
worked for Walksmith in the mill, or
It could be. I don't know what he did.
okay, it's hard to say. And Mrs. Carver, do you remember her?
Oh yes, Irene. Mhm.
Nice lady.
Yeah, very. They lived very frugally, but everything was very nice, but very frugal.
You remember the inside of their home?
Yeah, because it was this house.
Yeah. How? I mean,
Oh well, it was nice, you know. I mean, they had electricity and everything like that. But
did you have to modernize it much?
oh,
since then?
definitely. It had one outlet in the kitchen and one in the living room. And if they wanted any further electricity in this room here, they attached it to the light fixture.
Oh, really?
It wasn't this light fixture,
Yeah.
but everything was, of course, when it was electric, that's all they used it for, were just lights. Mm-hmm. They had the old cook stove. They did have a refrigerator.
Oh, that was plugged into the one outlet.
Yeah.
Probably cost them $3 a year to live here. Taxes.
Whatever, I don't know.
How have the taxes gone? You know, have they changed much for this property over the years?
Oh, yeah, like everybody's up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what taxes were when you first bought the place?
No, I don't. No. So,
Yeah, in my place in Bayfield, they
but
only,
you see, this house is in the town of Bayfield.
yeah.
Oh, it is. You're not in the city limits?
No, we're outside the city limits by 2 feet.
You are.
By
didn't
2
know that.
feet. This road divides it here then?
Well, my garage is in the city.
Is it? You gotta be kidding me.
No, I'm not.
What a story that is.
Yeah.
Well, so then you're not hooked up to the city sewer and stuff like that?
Well, I am, but I pay more.
Oh, you have to pay reacher's rights there or something, I
Yeah.
suppose. What a story that is. I think I remember something about there was a little scuttle for a while.
I don't know why they put it where they did, but maybe
Don-
the guy didn't want to pay so many taxes, the one that owned it, and just had him make the line 2 feet.
Do we know who built this house? Did the Carvers build it? Or
No,
who
no,
built it?
this house is very old.
Yeah.
I imagine it goes back to almost 1860s or so.
One of the original homes? was
Yeah. You know that big long picture they have of Bayfield up there at the museum? Mm-hmm. Now, I don't remember the date on that, but
That's
this house,
1910.
I think it's even before that. But anyway, the house is on there.
You know. Do you
But it
have the
was-
abstract of the place yet, or?
Yeah, we do, and I've had it looked at, but nobody can quite figure out when the house was put on the property. But it
Usually
had-
the abstract will follow back the owners.
yeah, I know people have looked at it too, you know, but
That'd be interesting to see it.
And, but, you know, the house is really quite an old house. The original part. Of course, it's had changes.
Well, the original part, probably this could be new, or that could be new.
The, I think where you came in first at one time was the kitchen. And that kitchen was a dining room. And that was a living room. And this was a bedroom.
Okay.
Because the Carvers had an invalid daughter. And she, I don't know, she had something that the family told me she fell down when she was playing basketball or couldn't get up. And I can't remember what it is, but people get it today and they can't do anything about it today, and they couldn't then.
Well, just lost her ability to walk.
Remember what her name was?
Yeah, I have. I can't remember now what it was. Because there used to be a doorway here, and one of the family came to visit, and she said they had a ladder there. And they'd lift her up, and she'd put her hands up on the ladder so they could dress her.
Really? What a story.
And she was in a wheelchair from high school days on.
Jeez.
I'm gonna have to ask Dad if he remembers the Carver girl.
Yeah, I wish I could say her name right off, but I think she was one of the younger.
It'll
Was
come to you
there
after
an
we
Ann
leave.
Carver?
Yes, that's it. Annie, they called her.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
So this is quite a place of history. This house.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you've been here
The-
how many years?
but the one who built it, as far as we can figure, now this is a name that'll throw you. Birdseye Wade.
Wade.
It's on some of the,
You know what? He was a lawyer in Bayfield.
what's his name, Birdseye?
There is a kid that went to school named Birdsey. I always call him Birdsey Wade, yeah. W.W. Wade was another name.
Well, that's the first ones.
And so you think Birdseye Wade built the place?
I don't know if he built it, but he sure lived here from the beginnings.
Uh-huh.
The Wade is an old name in Bayfield.
Yeah,
You'll see their name back in the 1870s in the minutes of the the town of Bayfield.
yeah,
So this was all the town of Bayfield one time. It was a village of Bayfield in the town of Bayfield, and it was a government conducted as a township. It wasn't until 1913 that the city set itself off, as did the town of Russell and the town of.
oh. You're the only one I've ever known about that knew of the name Wade.
Yeah. I remember the kid's name being in the school book that I wrote. That's how I got interested in that. And then you see his name pop up. I think he was a lawyer in Bayfield, W.W. Wade.
Well, he was one that lived here. I don't know whether he built it or not, but
Yeah. Could be.
or his family or something. Because
Those old homes in Bayfield were usually like 20 feet by 30 feet and 2 stories. And I can kind of see, that facade on, there. So I'm thinking the original building was probably that. And then as they got a little bit more money, they added more rooms on.
well, the porch used to be all the way around the front and the side here because the trees weren't there, so it was a lake.
Mm-hmm.
But Mrs. Carver said that the porch got so decrepit, and I have a picture, and it's all little fancy doodads on it, that they tore it off and put on an
That
enclosed
barge
porch.
board type of thing. You
And,
got some fancy doodads on your house out there.
yeah, but this had, those little things.
Real ornate.
Ornate, yeah. But it deteriorated, and they tore it off and made an enclosed porch where they could
That
use
was
it more.
You've got a good memory when it comes to that Birdsey Wade. I call him Birdsey because I just saw the writing like that, so I didn't know it was Birdseye or Birdsey but it was B.B. Wade.
Well, I remembered it because such an odd name, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
why would anybody name a kid that?
How can you look at a little bitty baby and call him Birdsey?
Well, maybe bird's eye.
Bird's Eye.
Birdseye.
I don't know.
Well, that sounds like an English name, doesn't it?
Could be.
Who knows?
You have a lot of lovely furniture. Did you collect some antiques in your time? And
Well, these chairs belong to carvers. But, and I had their table, but I sold it because I inherited this table from my family. And most of the furniture came from this place and that place. Those chairs were my grandmother's, Nicholas, and
see the beautiful needlepoint on there. Did your grandmother do the needlepoint, or?
no, I guess my mother did.
Oh wow, it's a tribute to her.
Now, she didn't do the flowers, but I think she did the pink and I did the brown. I'm not sure.
Do you do needlepoint yet, or?
I haven't done needlepoint in a long time, but
We
you got to
pretty-
make sure you got those little holes just right.
Yeah.
My Aunt Rankle was really into that.
Yeah,
Did you do any other crochet work or anything like that?
not so much crocheting. I like to do embroidery.
Oh, you did. You ever do any hardanger or
No, I haven't done
anything like that?
too much like that. Some cut work, but not.
You made clothes for Claire for the school things. I know that.
Yeah.
Had your own sewing machine and off you'd go away.
Yeah. That buffet belonged to my parents.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff I just sort of inherited.
Well, that's what we've done at my place too.
Yeah.
Why buy when you got beautiful stuff like that you can't even buy? You know.
Oh no, it's much. Well, we bought that desk. This was an antique that belonged to Don's mother and aunt, and this and that. So.
Carver chairs are really interesting. They're a talking piece within themselves.
Yeah, well,
To
you
know
couldn't
that
buy
I'm-
one like that today that would last as long as these.
No, they're solid oak. Very nice. I see you've collected you've got at least one John Black.
That's all, just one.
Yeah. How did you acquire that one?
It belonged to Don's aunt, Janet Shattuck. Someone bought it for her from him. And so when she died, why?
Over it came. Very nice.
But Don's aunt Janet was an accomplished artist. She painted that picture up there with
Oh,
the teapot and did quite a few others.
yeah. She's very, very.
Oh,
very
and then
accomplished.
she did those in that room in there. On the, well, maybe you can see them.
Yeah. We'll take a little walk about here in a little while. John's. Maybe we'll just sit down and identify some of the photos and things of people here too. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
as I
in
got.
fact,
Well,
so this, I'm taking this Chautauqua picture. Describe that Chautauqua picture again, Celia.
what?
That's just kind of tell me about when that might be,
Well, I couldn't say the exact year.
but about.
Well, he said it was, it'd be the early 1900s.
And where was that taken?
Well, here in Bayfield somewhere.
Somewhere. There was a Chautauqua. And what does that sign say? Can you read it?
I got to get it up here. Well, the dates were July 21st to 26th. Maybe if I got a magnifying glass, I could see what this says up above.
But in any case, it was an early Chautauqua
Yes.
event here in Bayfield.
Oh, yeah, that was taken our 25th anniversary.
Maybe I can read that.
Let me get a magnifying.
So this portrait is, who's on this picture?
That's me and my husband, Don.
And when would this have been taken? Was this a,
Well, let's see, we were married in 55, so it must have been around 75 or so.
so maybe it was your 20th anniversary?
Yeah, 25th.
25th anniversary, right.
Let's see what that one is you
And
got.
who took this picture? Who do you think took the picture?
Well, I was a
Remember?
professional photographer.
In
In
Ashland?
Ashland.
In Ashland, yeah.
I don't know who.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now what is this one again, Celia?
My husband Don Duquette's high school graduation.
Graduation from
High school.
here in Bayfield?
Yeah.
But what year would that have been?
About 48.
Bayfield High School senior. Okay.
So who is this, Celia?
Would been my father-in-law, Alfred Duquette.
Alfred Duquette, Don's
Father.
father. Taken about when, do you think? He's a young man.
Yeah, I suppose his high school graduation
And that would have been taken where?
here in Bayfield, I suppose, or wherever the photographer was.
Yeah, but he graduated from
Yeah,
Bayfield too. Okay. All right. So tell me who's on this picture again, from left to right.
Oh, this from the left. Her name was Lou Shattuck,
Uh-huh.
my husband's grandmother, and this was her husband, and his name was Edwin, and this would have been my husband's aunt Jessie, and then the other aunt would be Aunt Janet, and my husband's mother wasn't born yet.
So this is an old picture from,
Yeah.
God, when, roughly, would you say?
I'm not good at dates. When it would have been.
Was it in this century?
Pardon?
I mean, was it in the 20th century or
It might have been the late 1800s.
late 1800s? Yeah.
1890s.
Could be. Look at the styles. Look at his. Yeah. Okay. You mean later?
Yeah.
Well, you can. You can zoom in to a certain extent. Okay. Now, who is this, Celia?
This would have been Don's grandmother, Louise Duquette, and of course her husband, William. And then this would have been Don's father, Alfred. He was the oldest of several children.
Right. So Don's father and great and grandfather
Yeah.
and grandmother. Right. Okay.
Now here's a very nice.
Okay.
Now this is my mother. Her name was Eleanor Nicholas Houston, and she was born and raised in Birch Run, Michigan, and lived in Flint all the rest of her life.
And here she looks to be in her what? Oh.
She probably was in her late 70s at that time.
Yeah. And how old did she live to be?
85.
Okay. Let's see. Why don't you repeat that? 'Cause I turned the camera off. What were you saying about her?
Oh, I just said she spent the summers with us in Bayfield. After my father died, she would come up here and spend the summers with us.
Uh-huh. Who is this again?
This was my husband's grandmother, Lou Wright Shattuck.
All dolled up for this picture. What's she got in her lap there?
A hat.
Yeah. Sure. With kind of a fake backdrop there. Painted backdrop. She's
Yeah.
in the portrait studio. Yeah.
Ray starting to
Bass
Island for a picnic, but I don't know what his last name was.
So who's this down? This the couple.
This one
down there?
here?
Yeah.
This is my husband's mother and father, Alfred Duquette and Clarice.
And where was this taken?
I think this was in Flint. Yeah, Flint, Michigan.
How old were
No,
they?
I guess not. I think this is what it was taken in Bayfield.
Can you tell about where it is?
Well, taken, but they lived in a little house there on the corner of 13 and I think 5th right along in there somewhere.
I can put it back up and then I can. So this is in Bayfield somewhere.
Yeah, that's where they lived, where they have that little, it's kind of a factory or whatever, there across from the gas station.
Oh, yes,
Well, they didn't live, they lived in the house next to that.
next to that.
Well, didn't Herman Jansen live up here on that corner?
Yeah, but that's a different deal
Oh,
altogether.
that's a different family.
Yeah. See, there's the Booth building there. That's a series right there. So this is Johnson's Fishery in those days. The boat there is the Seagull. And boy, it almost looks like about 1930.
Probably. They used to come up here about that time.
So this one on the where they're heading to a Bass Island for a picnic, that was taken where? Where was this picture taken?
On some dock, I don't know what dock, whether it was Booth, I have no idea.
It looks like the old city dock years ago.
So right downtown here in Bayfield.
I would imagine.
And the dock on top, next to it there, I believe is the old Solomon Bataan Fish Company.
In the background there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the other one over here, the couple that are sitting there,
That's my husband's mother and father,
and what are their names again?
Clarice Shattuck and Alfred Duquette,
Right.
before they were married.
So this is when they were romancing.
Yes,
Again taken here in Bayfield?
yes,
Would you guess?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice picture of them. It's good you kept these.
Work every night in the basement, and Grandma would be up there making more tablecloths, whether she needed them or not.
Yeah. Well, they gave them away.
Yeah, that's
So-
fair. Well, that.
Okay, what is this now?
You're in the center one there.
Yep, 9 of the top one.
The top one, that's the little Henry Johnson or Henry Johnson Senior dock, which is located right next to the Bayfield Pavilion. The year is circa probably 1930.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know who that is in the picture.
I'm not able to positively identify it, but I
Yeah.
would guess it could be either an employee of old Henry Johnson Senior,
Mm-hmm.
or that's presently where Ed Erickson's dock shop is now.
Oh yeah. Okay, then below, let me go in on that one. Not sure I could. Yeah, actually I can get. Okay.
That's a waterfront panorama. On the south side would be the Bayfield Pavilion. Next to it is Little Henry Johnson's dock. And then the next one to the far right, that's the waterfront of A. Booth and Company Fisheries.
Where the ferry is now?
Right, ferry landing.
Taken, when do you guess that?
I'm thinking 1930.
Yeah. Then how about down below?
Just another view of the Henry Johnson dock. Probably a better photo. That could be Henry Johnson Sr. there. I'd have to ask my dad, Julian.
And that, where was that Henry Johnson's?
That would be at the foot of Front Street. Right now it would be on the east side of the Pier Plaza, right next to the Bayfield Pavilion, and right next to the city dock, just north on the north side of the city dock.
Right.
A small dock. It was probably 80 feet long, and little Henry Johnson owned the boat. The Ruth was there, and
So where would this be? Lower left.
I'm thinking that is probably Grants Point on Madeline Island.
Mm-hmm. And Celia, you thought that might be one of Don's?
It's prior to 1938.
Which
Does-
picture are you?
down the lower left down here.
Oh, I imagine that's his mother and aunt. or
Don's
something.
mother. Mm-hmm. Right.
It's so small, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Right. It's kind of hard to get too. Okay. Okay. Where would this be?
That is Bass Island. The C.W. Turner is the name of the fish boat there. It's a tug that belonged to A. Booth and Company Fisheries. The Turner served Booth until 1938. In 1938, she was replaced by the Apostle Islands.
Right.
So I know that that is just before 1938, somewhere's in there.
And somebody in your family took this picture, Celia, you'd guess?
I suppose Don's aunt or mother took it when they were here.
Yeah, right. Okay. So Celia, what do you think that little picture is?
This one?
Yeah,
It's a fishing dock on one of the islands. Which one, I don't know, because it's not only half the picture.
I would say it's La Pointe. There's no other island that has that type of dock and backdrop to it.
Mm-hmm.
Or there were fish camps anyway. That could be Billy Hagen's place at La Pointe, that would also be where the state park is now, if that is the spot.
right.
Yeah, it had to stand still.
Yeah, and you look down from the top on it.
Yeah,
So this one, the middle picture, Bobby, you think is what?
Michigan Island.
Michigan Island Lighthouse.
Probably pre-1938.
Yeah, right. And then what about the one next to it?
I'm not real sure. That could even be Outer Island Light from a different angle. I'm not sure.
Pretty distinctive looking. I don't recognize it.
Mm-mm.
You know, the building is like the Sand Island construction, but it's
Depends on what angle they shot that from. If you shoot it from the lake, I know them all. But if you're shooting it from the woodside towards the lake, then it's a little more difficult,
Yeah.
John.
let's see. Let's see if I can. That lower left one, is that?
This lower right one is, I believe, Devil's Island. It's right here. They must have took a little boat tour on the C.W. Turner that day. That's what I'm thinking. The year is 1937. Your husband is 11. If he was 18 and 48, so he's 10 years old. He's going for a boat ride with these people. They get on the C.W. Turner, and they go to La Pointe, and then they go to Bass Island. They make a swing around the islands, which used to be Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The Turner's was on this side of the lake, and on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, she went to Sand Island. Picked up fish, brought deliveries, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. First time I was up here, we went on the Booth boat
The Apostle Islands.
and went out to get fish.
Yep. Well, she came in 1938.
With it, yeah, well, this wasn't until the 50s that I was
Yeah, so
got sick.
Did you?
Yeah, it was rough weather.
Well, yeah, you were probably on there when I was on there as a kid. Do you remember the big?
Oh, I was about 20-some years old.
Well, in 1955, I was 5, and we had the place at Rocky Island, and I can still see that pop cooler in there, drinking my old smoothie root beer. You think I'm kidding? I remember that. And Nesbitt's orange pop. Do you remember that, John?
Oh yeah.
The best orange pop ever. In the bottles. You remember that, don't you, Celia? Give me a bottle. What I wouldn't give for an old smoothie right now. Just to go back and it's something really great about those hot days, and you pull it out of that icy water. Well, they had the ice floating in there.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Uh-huh. No machines. They had
No machines. They just had a
cooler. And
they dumped that Booth in those days used to chip their own ice. They take it out of the lake.
Sure.
You never be able to sell that pop nowadays the way they did it back then.
nobody got sick.
Okay.
And turn the page?
Yeah. Let's see if there's something else here.
Let's see. Yeah, this would have been my Don's grandmother and sister and mother and Don. It looks like they were on a boat someplace having a picnic.
I'm trying to figure if this is the old fashioned, the boat, the fat. Well, that's not Seaburger.
No.
That's the captain before him. That might be old Captain Russell, if that was an Madeline Island, a Bayfield boat. Howard Russell's dad.
Probably.
Okay, then down in the bottom there, you were pointing out who was on this picture.
The woman at the far right was my husband's grandmother, Shattuck, and then next to her would be, I have to stop facing, his sister. And this was my husband's sister Jean and his mother Clarice,
And who was the other one?
his grandmother.
His grandmother. You're talking about Don's family. And they were on board something? Maybe they're on board
Yeah, that
the
looks
ferry.
like they've got having a picnic on the ferry
On
or
the
something.
ferry, yeah.
I love this.
Well, it's on the same page as these other ferry boats. There it
Looks like
says
he's
the
wearing
Madeline Bayfield. Who's peeking through the life?
Through the hole?
Yeah.
I think that's, that's Don's mother, Clarice.
Don's mother, Clarice.
Clarice Shattuck.
Let's see, let me get, I've lost focus here. Oh yeah, there she is. Don's mother, Clarice, on the ferry. Many years ago. Okay. Now what about on the other page?
Well, this is Don's mother and his sister Jean.
Same trip probably,
I imagine.
you know. They're clearly on the back of the ferry there. And then down to the right there's a building.
I don't know what building that would be. Probably something on the island. Looks like for fishnet reels or something.
Somebody's,
don't know.
somebody's fish camp. You know, it
Yeah.
kind of looks like LaPointe's fish camp on Madeline. Do you know, Bobby? You recognize it? Yeah. Probably same trip though. They were tromping around Madeline. So what is this again, Celia?
That's the old Indian cemetery at La Pointe.
Yeah. And there's
There's my husband Don. He has a little boy by the fence here,
yeah,
and his grandmother's back here.
yeah,
You can hardly see her, but
yeah. Okay. Now let's just try to go through these. Let's see here.
I know what that is.
Let's start with the upper left-hand corner here.
over here with the dog.
I think he's on this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one.
I don't know what cabin that is.
That's one of the,
Yep.
that's one of the old mission cottages, which would be right next to the golf course at the point.
Okay, on Madeline Island.
That could even be my in-laws' cabin at that point in time. Circa 1934.
And then what's the beach next to it?
That's the same beach that runs. This is the. If you look far down the road, that would be where La Pointe Dock is. I take that back. Look that up. Yeah, that's the beach. Probably running right about where the pub is. at La Pointe running north to the city dock.
And then below that, there's a,
This is my husband's sister, Jean.
maybe these are all from the same
I assume.
trip from over to Madeline. Yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
They,
So this is Don Duquette's sister, Jean Duquette.
She married John Albers.
Okay.
from where, Washburn?
And
I
then,
know. I know a young John Albers. He's a musician.
Probably my nephew.
Yeah.
Okay, then up here, the other page with the dog.
That's Don, and I don't know anything about the dog, but
Don is a boy.
For all practical purposes, we'll name the dog Spot.
Yeah.
they had several dogs. I don't know whether
Where,
that
where do you
was.
think that was taken? That's out in the country somewhere.
It may have been taken in Michigan, or it may have been taken up here someplace.
Yeah, we don't know.
I don't have any idea
There's
about
a-
that dog. They had several dogs, but I didn't know one that kind.
Some kind of a water spaniel. Used to have one when I was a kid. We had a black and white water spaniel we called Hank. Like that dog. Okay.